During the presentation, if any of you have any questions to the speaker, you can put it in a question answer section. The moderator of the today, Dr. Kaushik, and I request to moderator to please commence with the session.
Good evening, everyone, and very warm welcome to all of you in the third webinar organized by IIP West Bengal branch. On behalf of IIP West Bengal branch, I do welcome you all for the webinar of benefits of Pilates in sports. Let me also welcome to the organizer of the day, myself Kaushik Malik, Dr. Arindam Seth, Dr. Risiraj, and our speaker, Dr. Utsav Sir. Now I would like to say something. Dr. Risiraj, please say something.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Utsav Sir for conducting webinar for IIP West Bengal branch. Today's topic is very different from other webinars. Hope everyone can learn new techniques, best wishes from my side. Sir is also formal assistant physio in Kings 11 Punjab. So hope everyone should enjoy this new techniques. Best wishes from my side, sir.
Now I would like to Dr. Arindam Seth, please say something.
Warm welcome, sir. Utsav, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arindam.
So on behalf of the IIP West Bengal branch, I would extend my warm welcome to Utsav sir and the Rishi Raj, CEC East Zone, and the IIP technical team to give a nice support for this webinar. This webinar is, I think it will be give a new highlight to the young physios to learn about the Pilates techniques, and maybe it will be useful in the clinical practice and also the sports. I wish all the success of this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I welcome you, Dr. Utsav Sir. Dr. Utsav Sir done his masters from Australia, sports and orthopedics. He's also certified rehab Pilates training from Pilates Institute of Queensland in Australia. He is also former assistant physio for King 11 Punjab, and he is also physio for Northeast United FC for ISL. He is also, actually we both are also certified BCCI level 1 2012. Now, Utsav sir, please, you can start your session. Thank you.
So is my screen visible at this stage?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, West Bengal IIP branch, for inviting me to conduct this webinar. I mean, it is actually an honor to conduct it for everyone. And it is a very good initiative which is taken by you, which is helping us during this lockdown for our professional development that we kind of need at this stage. So just to begin with this seminar, I've just kind of given you the flow of the events that we're gonna have at this stage. First, we'll just kind of go through the introduction of Pilates, what is like core stability, principles of Pilates, physiology, and then once we understand the whole concept of Pilates, then like we will be going into the application of Pilates in sports. And once we understand that, how will we design a training program for the athlete? So what is Pilates basically? Pilates is it is a very low impact form of exercise focusing on the flexibility, strength, endurance, and posture. It is a form of exercise emphasizing on the balanced development of the body, mainly through its core strength. While doing the various exercises, your mind needs to be aware of two things. First is your breathing pattern, and secondly, how your body moves while performing these exercises. So before we go on, let's just discuss something about the history. Pilates is named after its founder, Joseph Pilates, who was German and who was born in the year 1880. Initially, Pilates was also called as chondrology. He was himself a gymnast, so which you can see here with the kind of physique that he has here, and he was also a carpenter by the occupation. He had invented this form of exercise to basically rehabilitate the injured soldiers during the World War I in 1914. After that, Pilates was used more for strength and conditioning of the injured ballet dancers. Joseph firmly believed that physical and mental health were closely connected and it highly influenced each other in the terms of well-being. The first Pilates studio was opened in New York in 1920. This is your first Pilates studio. This is Joseph himself, and these are his reformer equipments that he has there. And now since the past 10 years, Pilates has become very popular in India, mainly because of the celebrities posting a lot of videos on Instagram and other, social media. Pilates has now really caught up in India as well. So this is the main concept of Pilates, that is what is core stability. Core stability basically refers to the ability of the body to control the trunk muscles. So there are basically two kinds of muscle. One is called as the local muscles, that is the stabilizing muscles, and you have superficial muscles, those are the global muscles. Now, like these muscles mentioned over here, that is your transversus abdominis, your pelvic floor, your multifidus, and your diaphragm. These are the local stabilizing muscles, which would be stabilizing the trunk. They all work at basically low intensity and for long periods of time. So that is, they are type 1 fibers. And the most important point to remember is that they work independently of the global movement muscles. So your global movement muscles can be anything below the pelvis basically and anything above the diaphragm. Sling system. Now, it is seen that there is a very deep connection between the local stabilizing muscles and the global movement muscles. Literature supports that there is basically existence of natural anatomical slings in our body, and they basically play a vital role in the stabilization of the lumbopelvic complex. Now, to just quickly discuss about these sling systems, there are 4 types of sling systems in our body. As I said, these are the natural sling systems that are developed. First is the anterior oblique system. In this system, basically, what I'm trying to say is there are muscles in our body that are all interconnected with one another. It is very difficult to isolate a muscle and perform the movement. So what I'm trying to explain is that how the connection in a body is made. So the first sling system is the anterior oblique system. In this system, your external and the internal oblique muscles connect with the contralateral adductor muscles through the abdominal fascia. This is from the front, that is the anterior. Posterior oblique system basically consists of your lats and your glute max muscles, which is interconnected by the thoracolumbar fascia. 2 more systems are there. That is the deep longitudinal system. It will connect the erector spinae, multifidus, sacrotuberous ligament along with the biceps femoris muscle. And this is your 4th sling system, that is the lateral sling system, connecting your glute med, glute min, TFL, and the IT band. So why do we need to know about the sling system, and why do we need to know about this core stability? It is because with this new awareness of the sling system as well as the core stability that we have, there is a different perspective that can be developed, and then we have seen that both the muscles, that is the local muscle as well as the global muscles, have a interpersonal relationship as well. So once we understand the concept of core muscles as well as the sling system, we can have a very holistic approach in basically treating the patients instead of targeting just one muscle group, basically during the treatment. Now, these are the 6, principles of your classic Pilates. So there is also classic Pilates as well as modern Pilates. This was basically given by Joseph Pilates himself. We'll just briefly go through it first. First principle is the centering. So basically, according to Joseph Pilates, our human body has a physical center from where all the motion proceeds. It is called as the powerhouse of the body. So from the center, all the motion proceeds. Use of this centering is that it like basically allows greater freedom of movement for the limbs without any excess muscle tension. Principle 2, that is concentration. Joseph has rightly put that it is the mind that shapes the body. So once you are aware and once you focus more on the movement, your brain will activate the neural pathways, and this will help you align your body in space. Thus, your nervous system chooses the right combination of muscles, and it will actually direct the blood flow to them, which will help to maximize the performance. So always mind over body. Principle 3 is your control. So the aim of the Pilates exercise is to perform the exercises accurately and with proper movement pattern. Once this is done, it will activate your subconscious mind and you will be able to perform the movements better. In fact, Shirley Sarman in her work back in like 2012 also used this Pilates principle of control in her work. Principle 4 is the basically precision. So once you perform the exercises with full on precision, it will enhance the functioning of your vital organs, and it obviously increases the sense of general well-being. Fifth principle, that is breathing. This is the most important principle of Pilates. So as like Joseph Pilates rightly put it, breathing is the first act of life and also the last act. So basically Joseph said that there are specific breathing techniques that are used during the exercises to keep the bloodstream pure. This purity comes from the oxygenation of the blood and elimination of the noxious gases that are there. Pilates has a very different kind of breathing. It is called as the 3D breathing, that is called as three-dimensional breathing, in which your rib cage needs to expand in all the directions, that is anterior, posterior, as well as lateral. Now, how do we do this may like not be possible to explain in this webinar, because practical application would kind of do like more justice to it. But just to give you a basic summary of how it's done. Last principle is the flow. So once you do the movements of Pilates in a nice, slowly and in like a controlled manner, then like these flowing movements will actually give you a sense of harmony and balance. And as we know that once you get a proper movement pattern, then only you can add speed as a component. This flow is basically the combination of all the principles that we have discussed so far. So what we discussed so far was the principles of classic Pilates. Now there is just one more additional principle of basically modern Pilates, that is alignment. Now whenever we perform any exercises, we need to have neutral pelvis. Now if you can see on the mat, this pelvis is absolutely neutral. What do you mean by neutral? It is not arched and it is not flat. So there is a natural anterior curve that is present. So like basically neutral pelvis is what we need for all the exercise for the optimum recruitment of the muscles during our Pilates exercises. Now, if your stabilizing muscles are weak, then we can do a concept called as imprint. Now, you can see a nice natural curve here, even though it is a neutral spine. This one is totally flat. So in this, there is a bit of a posterior pelvic tilt along with slight flexion of your lumbar spine. So when these muscles are weak and when you cannot achieve the neutral pelvis, you need to start with imprint and then slowly progress to neutral. Rib placement. So the ribs should be basically gently resting on the mat. It should kind of neither push onto the mat, neither it should elevate from there. It should be nice and gentle, and it should rest on the mat. Scapula, head and neck. So your scapula should lie flat over the rib cage, and your shoulders shouldn't be overly rounded, neither they should be flat. For your cervical spine, you can actually use a pillow if you feel that your cervical spine is dropping into extension. So now once we discussed all these principles, so like the common question that would come into our mind, this is so much similar to yoga. So is basically Pilates similar to yoga or is it different? The answer is no. Yoga and Pilates is absolutely different. So what is the basic difference I'm just highlighting here? The Pilates stretches are more active and they are more dynamic. Yoga stretches are more static. Pilates, you can alter the pace of the movement. Yoga, the movement is quite steady. Pilates, your breathing technique is basically different for different exercises. As I had mentioned earlier, it is three-dimensional breathing, whereas in yoga, like the breathing techniques are totally different for every asanas that you do. Pilates, you can perform on the mats or else on the kind of different equipments based on your functional goals. So which I will be discussing later. And yoga, like the Patanjali style of yoga is performed on mats. Iyengar style yoga, you can use many props like the bricks, ropes, chair, many things. So the most important thing to remember is that uh, even though there are differences between like yoga and Pilates, they both work on the same principle of syncing your mind and body with your breathing. That is the only way you can get the optimum results. There is basically lack of like clinical evidence at this stage to prove that Pilates is better than yoga or vice versa. They both are basically equally, effective in their own ways. Now, what are the benefits of Pilates? So the Pilates would help in the activation and the conditioning of the core and your global muscles, helps to improve the movement pattern of the muscles, alignment of the posture, helps to improve the flexibility of the muscles, improves the range of motion of joints, improves the efficiency of your movements through the ADL, reduces stress through your breathing control, improves balance, and in the last, it also helps in the general sense of well-being through your mind-body connection. So if you go to see, this is a very holistic approach of exercises offering us so many benefits. What are the contraindications? So obviously there are these you need to understand, like when you should not do Pilates. If there is acute pain or night pain, so that can be a very inflammatory condition which we need to avoid. Unstable spondylolisthesis, fracture, significant radiculopathy going down the legs or the arms, possible tumor, infection, cancer, significant hypertension, suspected abdominal muscle tear, or if there is suspected hernia. Who all can do Pilates? So now that we have learned all the concept of Pilates and your core muscle, the sling system, who all can do? Beginners can do, athletes can do, young population, older population, can be done one-on-one or it can also be done in group classes. Personally, when I was in Australia, I have taken Pilates class for a 9-year-old ballet dancer for her low back pain and also for a 81-year-old woman with knee pain who wanted to participate in a 5-kilometer walkathon. So the point I'm trying to make is that age is not a barrier for Pilates because Pilates is a very low impact exercise. Anyone who is old or young, everyone can do it. So far, there are no contraindications. Now I'll just quickly, orient you with the kind of Pilates equipments that are available in the market and which are the most commonly used. This is the Reformer. This is the most popular equipment of Pilates. This is either wooden or it is made of aluminum. So based on the budget that we generally have. This is the carriage which will move to and fro. This is the foot bar, and over here we have the spring system. So just to explain you about the spring system, there are different levels of spring. There is -1, 1, 2, and 3. 3 being the heaviest, -1 being the lightest. So any exercise you can make it easy or else basically challenging by just changing the springs. Now, these are some of the common exercises that you would be seeing on the Reformer. I mean, there are thousands of exercises, but just the common ones just to show the audience. This is called as the hip openers, in which you can see the mobilization of the hip joint opening and the stretching of the adductors. This one is your mermaid stretch, where it helps in strengthening of the oblique muscles and it helps in the stretching of your lats as well as the posterior capsule. This is the pelvic lift on the foot bar, which basically helps to strengthen your glute muscles and also to stabilize your spine. And this is your bicep curls done for conditioning purpose. This one is your scooter stretch, where basically you are stretching your hip flexor muscles over here. This is called as your side skating. This is done to strengthen your glute med muscles. So these are just a basic variation of exercises, just to give you an idea about it. The second equipment that is used is called as the Cadillac, or else it is also called as the trapeze table. Over here also there are kind of many pushover bars, which is present here as well as over here, and there is one more bar which is there in the center. Now I'm doing this exercise called as inverted rows over here, where my foot is over the bar over here, which is there. So this makes it much more challenging because it is unstable. So you can just play around with the equipment however you want to do it, whether it's easy or hard. Again with the Cadillac, so this is called as your tower exercise. This one is done to strengthen your lower abdominal muscles over there, and this is your V hollow ups again, which is done to strengthen the abdominal muscles. Third equipment that is commonly used is your ladder barrel. Now in this ladder barrel, so these are the several kind of ladders that we have here, and this is your barrel which is present. Over here, we can see the exercise, which is basically stretching the oblique muscles and also your thoracolumbar fascia. The fourth most commonly used equipment is your Wunda chair. Wunda chair also has many springs over here from heavy to light. In the Wunda chair, heavier the spring, easier the exercise, because the spring is going to assist you with the movement. Now that we have understood the concept of Pilates, its principles, now is the time where we understand how is Pilates applied in sports and what are its benefits. So Pilates can be basically applied in sports in two ways. A, if it can be applied as a rehab tool, and two, it can be applied as a exercise program as a part of fitness regime. So again, I would like to repeat two ways. One is the rehab tool as well as a exercise program. So, before we start to apply, we need to understand what is the physiology of Pilates, like how does Pilates work? Once we understand this, then the application part in sports becomes quite easy. So once we're doing, whenever we are doing the mat Pilates part, so that time body weight is the main resistance that is used throughout the exercise. Basically, this resistance can be changed, and by just changing the levers in your body, you can just change your body positions and make it short lever or else basically long lever. And then you can also change it by basically adding some props. Now, these are the different props that are basically used for mat Pilates. We have the stability balls, arc barrel, spine corrector, fitness circle or else the Pilates ring, and this is the TheraBand that is used with the fitness circle. So you can always basically play around with the exercise by just using these props. Now, effect of Pilates on connective tissue. Most Pilates-based exercises offer closed chain environment. So whenever there is closed chain environment, there is facilitation of compressive as well as decompressive forces on the connective tissue. Closed chain exercises will actually help to modify the loads. So you can use the spring in terms of the equipment, or else you can use the props if you are using a mat, and it will help to reduce the pain whenever there is facial issues, disc disease, cartilage, and ligament tears. Effect of Pilates exercise on nervous tissue. We need to understand this physiology to understand how you will apply it in sports as far as your rehab is concerned or as far as exercise is concerned. So the effect of Pilates on nervous tissue is that Butler stated that whenever cases fail to respond to the more traditional type of treatment, then basically mobilization was the nervous tissue was the answer. So now these Pilates based exercise on the equipment promotes the mobilization of the nervous system and the connective tissue, and then you can change the resistance by just making it easier or harder with the help of the spring. So if we just see this video as an example, now she is performing the scooter stretch over the reformer. Over here, there is basically stabilization of the hip joint that is happening, and over here there is flossing of the nerve that is happening. There is constant shortening and lengthening of the hamstring muscle that is happening, and she's having a nice stable core. Now, once that is done, she is changing the springs over here, and she is planning to make the exercise more challenging and more functional as possible. Now, she is a runner, and that is the time when she gets the back pain. So now she's going to try and plan to mimic the running posture. Now, as you can see, nicely she is mimicking the running posture with your stable hips as well as flossing of the nerves that is happening there. Okay. All right. Effect of Pilates exercise on strength. Traditionally, muscle conditioning seeks maximal voluntary contraction for optimum result. However, Pilates-based exercise focuses on motor imagery and feedback mechanisms to increase the movement performance. Over here, there is recruitment of the most effective motor units. So whenever there is a traditional muscle conditioning, there is voluntary contraction, maximal voluntary contraction. Over here, there is basically recruitment of the most effective motor units, and thus they are placing emphasis on the energy efficiency. This approach is also supported by the concept of the muscle length tension relationship. Effect of Pilates on functional capacity. Now, there was like a randomized control trial which was done back in 2016. It was done on basically elderly women. Now, there are still clinical trials going on in athletes. So that's the reason I have used the trial of the elderly women here. Over here, there were like parameters. So basically in this research, the kind of participants were asked to perform Pilates exercises, and basically effects were seen before and after 6 weeks. So like the parameters that were used were the timed up and go test, timed upstairs, timed downstairs, 30 chairs, sit and reach. Interventions used were 8 Pilates exercises thrice a week and 60 minutes per session with an average RP of 5 to 6. So after basically 6 weeks of doing these exercises, there was significant improvement seen in all the parameters of the functional capacity. Effects of Pilates on your body composition. Now it is seen, kind of many people promote Pilates for weight loss, which is true in some way, but this was a very important systematic review done by Gonzalvo to, kind of evaluate the effect of Pilates on your body composition. And what he concluded was that Pilates had to be complemented with strength training and aerobic exercises. If you will only do Pilates exercises thrice a week without any strength training or aerobic exercises, there was no significant effect on the BMI and other parameters of your body composition. This is the last one where we are doing the Pilates exercises for rehabilitation. So meta-analysis was done where we wanted to identify the activity of the transversus abdominis, the internal and the external oblique by performing the Pilates exercise on the athletes, which had persistent low back pain, non-specific low back pain, mechanical as well as lumbar radiculopathy. EMG was used to basically understand the activation pattern before and after. So after 6 weeks of Pilates exercise, the results on the EMG showed that there was increased activation of the core muscles and there was significant reduction of the low back pain on the VAS scale. There are also clinical trials that are currently on for Pilates, for the effect of Pilates exercises on ACL tear and rotator cuff tendinopathy, but the trial is still going on and hopefully we shall have the results soon. Like most of the trials are done on low back pain at this stage. So now that we have understood the physiology of Pilates, what we need to understand is how are we going to apply it practically in our clinic or else in sports. So if you're in your clinic, so you need to do Pilates minimum 2 times a week or else maximum 4 times a week. and you need to do it along with strength training, or strength training and aerobic exercises. Intensity. So like, since I had mentioned that Pilates is a very low impact form of exercise, like the RPE would be generally 5 or 6, but you can change the RPE by just changing the springs on the equipment or just changing the positions if you're on the mat. Type of exercise. Now, Pilates cannot be classified under aerobic or anaerobic. Thus, there has to be more research that needs to be done regarding the progression of the exercise. Now, there are many different schools of Pilates. There is Stott Pilates, Polestar, Balanced Body, APPI. They all have recommended their own variations, but there is still basically lack of clinical research which says how many sets or else how many reps you need to do. And that could also be the reason because Joseph Pilates chose to basically focus more on the recruitment of the most effective motor units. That is what we just discussed before, and thus placing emphasis on energy efficiency and movement pattern. But as like a ballpark figure, just to begin with for practical purpose, you can start anywhere between 1 to 2 sets for 10 to 15 repetitions, ensuring good form and your movement pattern. And time, each session needs to be done for 45 to 60 minutes per session. Now, like these are some of the athletes that are doing Pilates. So there, this is Josh Butler. His wife is a Pilates instructor, and he was doing Pilates during this lockdown period for his fitness regime. This is Hardik Pandya doing Pilates for like the low back surgery, which is just kind of underwent recently. This is Diego Costa, one of the famous footballers in Atletico Madrid, also doing Pilates over the reformer for his hamstring tear. So this is again the mobilization of the nervous system that we just kind of mentioned before. And this one is Cristiano Ronaldo doing like Pilates over the reformer, but this is done more for fitness purpose. Now, now that we have understood everything so far, what we need to understand is the concept of load management in the athletes. Now, this is a separate concept altogether, but just to keep it brief is that you need to be in this sweet spot to basically reduce the risk of injury whenever we are doing it, which means like whenever we just plan like a training program, you need to have a nice sinusoidal curve over here, which means there is less RPE, slightly higher, then again less, slightly higher. This is a nice sinusoidal curve and the pattern where we need to train the athletes, and not something like this where we have a nice sinusoidal curve but there is a drop and there is a training error and suddenly there is a spike. So this is the biggest training mistake that we would make. All we need is a nice sinusoidal curve. So how do we do it is, so this is a sample program which I had done during the ISL. So it is a basically a pre-season training program for the footballers. It was done for 3 to 4 weeks. So now if you go to see, there was strength training, which had an RP of 7 to 8. Then we had skill, which were RP of 6 to 7. So from top, we went to down. Then we had Pilates over here with an RP of 5 to 6, which like again went down. And then we had the skill work of speed and agility where the graph went again up. Then we had a break where the graph went down. Again, there was sport specific conditioning going higher, again lower, higher, lower, higher, lower. So if you see, there is a nice sinusoidal curve that we just discussed before. So this curve is what we need to maintain. And as we had discussed before that Pilates needs to be done minimum twice a week along with other workouts. So there is Pilates done here and there is Pilates done here as well. You can also do it, as I said, kind of minimum twice and like maximum 4 times, depending upon what other workout that you are doing. So just to summarize from like whatever we have learned so far, Pilates is a very low impact exercise, focusing on the recruitment of the most effective motor units. So basically Pilates cannot be used for muscle hypertrophy gains. There is nothing to substitute weight training for muscle hypertrophy. Pilates will help to increase strength, don't get me wrong, but it will not help for muscle hypertrophy. So it is used more for activation purpose. Pilates is neither aerobic nor anaerobic. It basically uses the combination of both the energy system. Results obtained from Pilates exercises performed alone has very negligible effect, which is what we saw in one of the research. Pilates and yoga are very similar in its principles, but they're not the same, which is exactly what we saw with the differentiation. So we cannot substitute one with the other. Equipment Pilates is basically preferred over the mat Pilates as it is more functional. However, if there is no facility for the equipment, you can still do the mat Pilates, but you can make it more challenging with the use of props. During the rehabilitation, use the concept of treating local as well as global muscles, keeping the anatomical sling in mind. So this is basically where you're going to have your holistic approach, which we discussed about. Now, even though Pilates is a very low impact exercise, the importance of dynamic warm up and cool down cannot be underestimated. We will have to do dynamic warm up and cool down before we do our Pilates exercises. Finally, whenever you are making a Pilates program for an athlete, remember the load management and the sinusoidal curve that I just spoke about, and you can alter the RPE based on it. These are the references that we use. And thank you. So this is basically one of the major messages that was given by Joseph, that it is the mind itself which basically builds the body, like, mind over body, which is what we discussed. And if you have any queries or if you would like to conduct any Pilates workshops, these are my contact details. You can always feel free to connect with me. Thank you so much. Kaushik, I'm done with the seminar.
Hello, Kaushik sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, till now, not much questions. Is Pilates and yoga somewhat similar?
That is exactly what we just discussed before, that Pilates and yoga, even though the principles are similar, but they are not the same. So we just kind of discussed in our slides before, that basically the concept is totally different, and like Pilates and yoga cannot be the same. As I said, one was active and dynamic, one just had the static poses. Breathing technique is different, the equipments used are different. So no, as I said, Pilates and yoga cannot be used to substitute each other.
No. Till now, no questions. Participant, please, you can put your question in the chat box. How do individual a Pilates program to an athlete?
Sorry, how do individual Pilates program?
Pilates program to an athlete.
How you can do an individual Pilates program? Okay, so that is exactly what I just mentioned. That first we need to understand the training load. Now, are you doing Pilates for rehab purpose, or are you doing Pilates for fitness regime? If you are doing for rehab purpose, as I said, you can do it for minimum twice a week, or as like maximum 4 times a week. And if it is for fitness purpose, so we just saw the graph where we need to do it minimum twice a week, and then we need to have a nice sinusoidal wave grid. So yes, so just minimum twice and maximum 4 times. That's what we can work on. But as I said, Pilates has to be done with other sets of exercises as well. Pilates done standalone has very negligible effect.
Next question. Pilates and yoga, what result in greater benefits?
As I said, so as you can see, there is still lack of clinical evidence at this stage to prove that Pilates is better than yoga or vice versa. So one thing that I would just like to tell the audience is that we need to stop comparing what is better, yoga or Pilates. What we need to understand that both of them have its place in your exercise routine. So if like, kind of someone would like to excel at yoga, they are more than happy. If they would like to do Pilates, again, more than happy. But there is no research to say that one is better than the other, because the principles and the concept used is totally different. So just to answer, there is no clinical evidence to say that one is better than the other. It all depends upon your functional goals. So that's what it is.
Can you explain Pilates breathing in details?
Yes, so this is a very good question. So basically, like, Pilates has three-dimensional kind of breathing. Now to explain this breathing, I mean, I will not be able to do justice on the webinar. I was actually thinking about posting some slides over here, but I thought it would not do justice. So basically what it does is that whenever you will contract a muscle, you need to breathe out. And whenever you would lengthen a muscle, you would just breathe in. Whenever you would go away from the body in your sagittal plane, you would again breathe out. And when you would come in, you would again breathe in. But when you will do it in the coronal plane, when you will go out, you have to breathe in. And when you come back on the midline, you need to breathe out. So from like whatever I have said, as I said, that if we can have like a practical demonstration or something, it would be better explained, because this is one of the major principles of, Pilates. But this is the best that I could explain at this stage.
Can Pilates help sports injury?
Yes, that is what this whole seminar was about. That where so as I mentioned here, that once you understand the physiology, then it is better applied in sports. So if now, because Pilates is like basically like a closed chain movement over here. So there's a lot of compressive and like decompressive forces. So that actually helps in the healing of kind of disc disease and facial pain syndrome and ligament tears. If there is any like sort of like radiculopathy, then it also helps in the mobilization of the nervous system. It also helps to kind of increase the strength and activate the muscles. Also helps to improve the endurance. So absolutely, Pilates helps. It's just that you need to know when to apply and how much to apply. So if the participant is just, I mean, if the injured athlete is just starting, then you can have more Pilates sessions. And if they are like already, kind of doing the other strength and endurance exercise, then you can reduce the number of repetitions. So to answer your question, yes, absolutely, Pilates does help the athletes. And like we also saw the athletes. In fact, we saw some of the cricketers, kind of doing like Pilates over here. I mean, cricketers as well as the footballers doing like Pilates for rehab as well as for fitness purpose.
Okay, next question. Is Pilates is in the rehab of back pain and neck pain? Is Pilates helps? Yes.
Absolutely. So Pilates, really helps. So that is exactly what we had discussed here in this, kind of paper that we have done. That Pilates really helps in the rehabilitation of neck pain as well as back pain. And there was a lot of, kind of research done for it. Even EMG was used for, basically used for it to identify how the muscle activation is, before and after 6 weeks of Pilates exercise. And it was seen that after 6 weeks of Pilates exercise, there was a lot of muscle activation that was happening, and it like definitely helps in your rehab.
When to inhale and when to exhale?
When to inhale and when to exhale, as what, so this I understand is with the breathing pattern, which is exactly what I just explained before. Whenever you are in your sagittal plane, when you are away from the body, you need to exhale. When you come back to the midline, you need to inhale. But if you're doing any kind of sideways movement, so when you're going laterally, you need to inhale, and when you come back to the midline, you need to exhale. So it's totally different, and it depends upon what plane you're doing your movement, but keeping the concept of three-dimensional breathing pattern that we have.
Can Pilates be done after skill session? If yes, then how much the time interval required between the two?
Yes, so kind of basically Pilates can definitely be done after basically a skill session, because your skill session will have an RP of 6 to 7 and your Pilates workout maybe will have an RP of 5 to 6. So you can definitely do it. If you are asking for like a time duration, sometimes the athletes do the workout early in the morning and they will do one late evening workout. There are athletes who will work out in the morning as well as they can do a afternoon workout as well. So if you are asking for a hours gap in between, then we need to have minimum 4 to 5 hours, because we need to allow the body to recover. So yes, to answer, Pilates can definitely be done after skill training.
Will breathing play an important role in the challenging the exercises?
Absolutely, because breathing helps in the activation of the muscles. So the main principle of Pilates, if you just saw my first slide, it was concentration and breathing. So if you are not breathing properly, you will not activate and recruit the correct muscles. And if the correct muscles are not recruited, then you will not get the desired results. So breathing and concentration, both these principles absolutely play a very important role in, like, kind of whatever function we need to achieve.
Next question. The conventional mat Pilates by Joseph Pilates consists of muscle release with strengthening. Is that not in the case in the modern Pilates?
Sorry, can you just repeat this question again?
The conventional mat Pilates by Joseph Pilates
Yes.
consists of muscle release with strengthening. Is that not in the case in modern Pilates?
No, I don't think that is true at all, because if you do mat or else if you do the equipment, remember the principles and the physiology of Pilates remains the same. The only difference in mat is that you can alter the resistance and make the exercise challenging by changing your body position. That is option one. Option two is where, kind of basically where you use props and you can make it easy or challenging. As far as the equipment is concerned, you are basically using spring for the strengthening purpose, and you can make it either easier or you can make it heavier by just changing the springs over there. So to answer again, the principles applied for mat and the equipment is absolutely the same. So whatever benefits you get with the mat, same thing you will get with the equipment as well. Only difference is with the equipment, you can make the exercise a lot more functional.
Since Pilates is a full body exercise, how do we focus on a specific region?
Okay, so because Pilates is a full body exercise, so what you can do is, as like we had mentioned in the slide, like Joseph Pilates mainly focuses on the recruitment of specific muscle fibers. So instead of doing compound movement activities, which you would do in your strength conditioning, like you would do your squats, you would do your lunges and the other exercises, this you can break up individually. So for example, if we just see kind of like this exercise over here. So for example, where like we can see the side skating exercise. So over here, I am basically keeping my hips stable and I am working to and fro with the slider, and I'm only, basically working on activating the uh, glute med muscle. So there is maximal activation of your glute med muscle as well as your core muscle. So you can actually break down the exercise and then you can decide where you would like to focus more upon.
Does Pilates aggravate pain on bus?
Does Pilates aggravate pain on VAS?
On VS, vascular.
Yes, yeah. So now that like depends, kind of where you're doing. So if you understand the contraindications of Pilates, if you will do Pilates in like any of these conditions, then it is absolutely going to increase the pain and on your, VAS scale. So first you need to understand, kind of what is the condition of the patient and to what intensity you can go. For example, if you like do not have the contraindications and if the patient is fit for Pilates, you need to understand his fitness level. So if his fitness level is quite less, and if you make the exercise more hard or challenging, be it the mat or be it the equipment, yes, the pain will definitely increase. So like there is a lot of clinical reasoning that you need to do and understand, like basically whether to keep the exercise easy or difficult, and then treat the patient accordingly. So you need to understand the fitness level of the patient.
Next question, can we perform Pilates on our house with the help of YouTube video or any kind of Pilates video?
Now, this is a kind of question like asking, like, kind of, can we do strength training at home, kind of just seeing the videos on the internet. So there are, chances that, kind of you may not recruit the correct muscle fibers and you may not have the optimal breathing pattern. I would, personally suggest to take a Pilates class with a physiotherapist or else a Pilates trainer, at least for 6 to 8 weeks, to understand the, kind of basic, kind of principles of Pilates and how the movement is done. Once you gain more confidence in it, then I would suggest that maybe you can do some kind of classes at home from YouTube online videos. But before that, just like directly starting online, I don't think it is the right way to go, and there are chances that you may injure yourself.
How can apply Pilates in rotator cuff injury if there is any tear of the muscle?
Okay, so that's what I had said, that there are still clinical trials that are going on as far as Pilates for rotator cuff injury is concerned. However, if you understand the principles of Pilates that we just did, so Pilates is most of the Pilates exercises closed chain exercise. So whenever we are doing the rehab of any rotator cuff muscles in the initial stages, we will be definitely focusing on the rehab exercise. I mean, we will be definitely focusing on the closed chain exercises. So Pilates would work wonders at that time, but only doing Pilates wouldn't help. So we will need a lot of rotator cuff strengthening along with Pilates and scapular stabilization. You will also need to have like proper movement patterns. So kind of applying these kind of physiologic principles, yes, Pilates can definitely be used in the kind of rehab of your rotator cuff tendinopathy.
Is Pilates can
Sorry.
one minute. Okay. For fast bowler and spin bowlers in cricket should use Pilates instead of stability exercises.
See, now you need to understand, see, Pilates form of exercises uses the concept of core stability. So, kind of basically you will need to use Pilates because as you rightly mentioned, there is the concept of core stability as well as there is concept of breathing. Now, when like, kind of these two principles are combined, then like you will get the, basically optimum result, and that will help for, kind of increasing the strength and the efficiency of the fast bowler. So once you strengthen the muscles and once the muscles have the power, then like obviously the fast bowler will be able to bowl more faster and the spinner will have much more stability whenever he is delivering the ball. So yes, absolutely Pilates exercise would be helpful for it.
What type of basic Pilates regime can be used in gym or fitness center?
So if that gym has a place, then I would suggest to basically install the reformer. That is the like the most basic equipment that anyone should have. I should also tell the participants that the reformer is not cheap. It can cost anywhere between 2 to 3 lakhs. So if the kind of gym has the budget, then you can definitely use the reformer. If the gym doesn't have the budget, and if it just has like a small room where you can do your mat exercises, then like definitely you can just kind of get the props that we kind of use for the mat exercises. These are quite cheap and like readily available in the market, and then you can design the exercises with the help of the stability balls, the arc barrel, spine corrector, and then as we can see, we can use a combination of the Pilates ring as well as the TheraBand. So it all depends upon the budget at the end of the day. If you have the budget, go for the reformer and perform the exercise. If the budget is less, then basically props for mat Pilates would work the best.
Difference between Pilates and stretching.
Difference between Pilates and stretching. So basically, Pilates uses the concept of stretching in its own exercise. So it is not a substitute for stretching. In fact, I just mentioned in my last slide that we need to do proper dynamic warm-up and cool down before doing your Pilates exercises. So Pilates will help in the mobilization of the nervous system, and it will help in the stretching of the muscles as well. But it is not a substitute to stretching. In fact, you need to stretch before and after you do your Pilates exercises. That will help in efficient recovery of the muscles.
Can you highlight Pilates for disc herniation or PIBT?
So what does the participant want me to highlight? So what is the question again, if I may ask?
Can you highlight Pilates for disc herniation or PIBT?
Okay, so again, you need to understand the contraindication, like, kind of how bad is the disc? Is it quite acute? Is there some significant radiculopathy attached with it? If that is the case, then we cannot do Pilates unless the orthopedic gives us a green signal to go ahead with it. Now that is if the case is severe, but if there is no significant radiculopathy and if there is just a minor disc bulge, and so then you can definitely do Pilates, and with the concept of core stability and with the concept of breathing, you will be activating your deep stabilizing muscles, that is your transversus abdominis, your internal and your external oblique, and it would basically really help to strengthen the muscles and reduce the load on the back and help to alleviate the symptoms.
Being a low impact exercise, how it can be more beneficial than any other technique we conventionally used in sports physio?
As I said, basically, since it is a very low impact form of exercise, now you can actually play around with the exercise. So if your patient or if the athlete wants something more challenging, then like you can play around with the springs if you have the equipment. And if you do not have the equipment, then you can basically play around with the props on the mat. So that way you can make the exercise much more challenging, or you can make it easier depending upon the requirement of the patient or the athlete. So that is the major benefit. Like, it is basically much more functional as like compared to the other, basically forms of exercise.
Pilates roll with scapular dyskinesia.
Yeah, that is the same concept what I just explained for like the rotator cuff tendinopathy. It is absolutely the same, because it is a closed chain type of exercise, which is what I just kind of explained earlier as well. And whenever there is closed chain kind of exercise, it will help for the facilitation of the compressive as well as the decompressive forces. It will help to improve your movement pattern, and it will help in the activation of your lower traps as well as your serratus muscle, and it will help to reduce your dyskinesia. But you will definitely need to apply the principles of Pilates along with the strengthening of the rotator cuff muscles to basically treat your scapular dyskinesia.
You have spoken about neural pelvis in supine. What about the other position like prone, sideline?
Okay, so kind of absolutely. So I mean, that is the basic concept that I wanted you to explain. So we need to try and have neutral pelvis in all the positions that we are in. It could also be standing. It could be walking. So what we do is we first basically treat the patient in supine lying, or else we treat the patient in all four positions. Once you achieve the concept of neutral spine in these positions, then we would go to prone, then we would go to sitting, then we would go to standing, and then like this, movement pattern is basically framed in your mind, and then your subconscious mind gets activated. And whenever you're doing any functional patterns like running or walking or any other activities, then the concept of neutral spine is already there. So first the safest way is to start from supine or all four, and then we would be progressing with the other positions.
May Pilates can be used for activation of particular myotum which is not performing well.
Absolutely. So as we just mentioned earlier, there is the concept of the anatomical sling system that we just mentioned before. that, with the importance of, so since we have this anatomical sling system in our body, so this is the sling system that we just spoke about. So so you can actually activate this, sling system and get the maximum, kind of recruitment of the muscles, and that would help to alleviate the symptoms. So you need to understand the concept of the sling system and then perform the exercises in a manner which would recruit the sling. However, I need to specify that you cannot just work one sling system, because these sling systems would work together. There is basically a coexisting approach. But with the kind of exercise, you can focus on one sling system more than the other. So that would help you.
Okay, that's all for today.
Okay.
Thank you. Now I would like to call Dr. Risiraj. Okay, I think it's not it. Dr. Arindam Seth. No. Dr. Arindam Seth, please say something. You are not audible. Dr. Subhendu Jana, please. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Utsav. Thank you, Dr. Utsav, for your wonderful seminar here. We all the physiotherapists hearing this webinar, we are very much fond of you. I feel that we need further more. Kaushik, you are requested to organize further more hand-to-hand Pilates seminar by Dr. Utsav.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arindam, for such lovely words. And I hope that I could, basically educate the audience in some way or the other, and basically introduce the concept of Pilates. And with, kind of practical application, it would actually really help them to understand the concept better. So thank you, Mr. Arindam, for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Alupi ma'am.
On behalf of IAP technical team, thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session, and so to all participants for attending this webinar. I would also like to thank our IAP President, Dr. Sanjeev Jha sir, and IAP Women's Cell National Head, Dr. Ruchi Vaishnav ma'am, for providing this platform for sharing our knowledge. And I request to all participants, please subscribe our YouTube channel, and you can also follow our Facebook page. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Utsav.
Thank you so much, IIT West Bengal branch, for having me, and keep up with the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.